everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through some commanders that just got massive upgrades thanks to the brand new cards from Tarkir. Let's jump into them. So, first up, one of my favorite cards from the entire set, and a very specific card. Let's talk about Lotus Light Dancers. This card is a powerhouse for the right deck, a 3/6 zombie bard with lifelink for 5 mana in Sultai. When this creature enters, search life for a black card, a green card, and a blue card. Put those cards into your graveyard, then shuffle. So this is a very specific card. This card is basically a mass tutor for the graveyard. And typically, again, when you talk about mass tutors, you're like, oh, okay, I want those things in my hand. But certain decks out there absolutely love and want to get specific things into their graveyard. And this is a great way to tutor, again, 3 very specific things. Again, a black card, green card, blue card. That can be a wide variety of cards, especially when it comes to multicolor cards that you can go get. So you can go get the exact things that you need for those commanders out there that really want them. And of course, it's an ETB, so you can easily use and abuse it. Here we go, though. Muldrotha, the Gravetide. Definitely the first one that comes to mind for this. Oh my gosh, Muldrotha is going to love this card. 6/6 Elemental Avatar for 6 mana in Sultai. During each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a permanent spell of each permanent type from your graveyard. So again, those 3 cards that you go and get can be 3 different permanent types even if you need to. Of course, green is going to be Spore Frog, right? It's always Spore Frog. Just kidding. That being said, of course, again, with this being on an ETB and on a creature, if Lotus Light Dancers is dealt with, you actually can keep getting them back with Muldrotha as well to tutor out even more things. So yeah, a fantastic card for that kind of a strategy. Next up, of course, Mimeoplasm. 0/0 Ooze for 5 mana in Sultai. Enters, you may exile 2 creature cards from your graveyard. If you do, it enters a copy of one of those cards, a number of additional counters on it equal to the power of the other card. Basically, again, set yourself up with, again, 2 of those 3 cards being the ones that Mimeo is going to exile, and maybe the other one is like a future one, or it could be like a flashback card, something you can use out of your graveyard. In a similar way, of course, other Mimeoplasm, the newer one, Mimeoplasm Revered one, is yet another great way to utilize this kind of a card. 0/0 Ooze for X in Sultai colors. Enters, exile 2 X creature cards from your graveyard. Enters with 3 counters on it for each creature exiled this way. By paying 2, it becomes a copy of target card, exile with it. Except say 0/0, it has this ability. Again, it literally sets you up for, okay, go get 3 creatures, put them in the graveyard, exile all 3 of those with this. And of course, my play with that might be to, make that infect, and then all of a sudden that's a one-shot KO on anyone. 1 infect creature, 1 evasive creature. Have fun with that. Next up, though, Yarok the Desecrated, the king of ETBs. A 3/5 elemental that costs 5 mana in Sultai. Death Touch lifelink. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a pretty cool to trigger, triggers initial time. So essentially a way to double up on ETB. So now instead of getting just 3 cards, instead of getting 3 cards and tutoring them in your graveyard, you can tutor 6 cards in your graveyard, which is massive. Again, not for every single Yarok deck out there. Obviously, there's some that don't use the graveyard at all, but there are definitely ones out there that do. And again, if you are going to go get basically like flashback type cards you can use out of your graveyard right away, it's kind of like building into your hand as well. And of course, Yarok decks are great at using and abusing ETBs, blink effects, etc. How about, though, Kenrith the Return King, a 5-color commander, 5/5 human noble for 5 mana that does basically everything. Pay a red, trample haste off turn for all your creatures. 2 mana in green, counter target creature. 3 mana in white, target player gains 5 life. 4 mana in blue, target player draws a card. 5 mana in black, basically reanimated creature for a player out of their graveyard. You're going to be doing that for yourself. So this one specifically, yeah, go and tutor up 3 fantastic cards. Typically, again, 3 creatures, 1 of each of those colors. And you have now the opportunity to reanimate them out of your graveyard for cheap with Kenny. Even cheaper, potentially, if you go get something like, one of those creatures that reduces the cost of other things. So you're like, oh, okay, yeah, reduce the cost of abilities. Thank you. Awesome. I get to utilize that even cheaper now because I reanimated that creature that I tutored for. Quite fantastic. One looking into the future, though, Sin, Spear's Punishment. One that's going to be coming out in the Final Fantasy set. 7/7 Leviathan Avatar for 7 mana in Sultai. Flying, enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random, then create a tap token to copy that card. The exile card is a land, repeat this process. So again, being able to reanimate one of those massive things, essentially, that you go and tutor for, and then the next one, it is random, but again, kind of curating your graveyard, getting the right things in there can be absolutely huge. So yeah, Lotus Light Dancer is definitely one of my favorite cards from the entire set. and a massive card for the right strategy out there. Next up, though, Temur Battlecrier. This card is a powerhouse as well. A 4/3 Orc Ranger for 3 mana in Temur. During your turn, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. This is a massive cost reduction. At the least, it is 1, for spells on your turn. Essentially, again, any spells on your turn, doesn't matter what that spell is. That is huge. That being said, of course, if you've got any kind of a strategy out there that has a decent amount of power 4 creatures, you're going to be saving an absurd amount of mana. So, some commanders that can really utilize this. Well, first one that came to my mind is Magus Lucia Kane, a 1/1 human Tyranid wizard for 4 mana in Temur. Beginning of combat, your turn to get a counter on a creature. You can also tap for 2 mana. When you cast a spell, exit its mana cost or activate ability, exit its activation cost, copy that spell or ability, choose targets with a copy. Basically, again, of course, a copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. This is a commander that can utilize a bunch of, X mana big creatures like a Hydra type commander, essentially. So you can just make a lot of massive creatures again and again and again. And, of course, you're doubling those up as well. So, of course, while you fill the board with a bunch of powerful creatures, Temur Battlecrier says, oh, hey, by the way, your spells cost a ton less to cast on your turn. And all of a sudden, you are casting, again, those X spells at a giant reduced cost to make them even bigger, while also doubling them up with this. So yeah, a fantastic decision to include that with this kind of a commander for the right build out there. Next up, Omnath Locus of All, a 4/4 Phyrexian elemental for 5 mana, Wooburg, and one of those is Phyrexian Black. You lose unspent mana, comes black instead. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. Reveal that card if it's got 3 or more colored mana symbols at its mana cost. If you do, add 3 mana in combination of its colors. Put in your hand. If you don't reveal it, put in your hand. Basically, with this, again, you essentially, if you reel it off the top, you are basically getting the mana for Temur Battlecrier for free. Lovely. On top of that, just with that play and this in play, this is at least reducing everything you cast by 2 on your turn thanks to your commander's power inherently. But of course, this kind of a commander can be a big power generator, a big mana commander, essentially. You're going to have some other big creatures and a lot of cost reduction from that. Speaking of which, just a stompy kind of a commander. Sirach Dragonclaw, 6/6 human warrior for 5 mana in Temur. Flash, can't be countered. Creature spells you control can't be countered. Other creatures you control trample. Of course, being able to just have a bunch of big creatures in play, swing out. Yeah, Sirach absolutely loves that, and this is a great creature for that kind of a strategy. Again, decent stats already, being a 4/3 for 3 mana, and yeah, being able to essentially say, hey, you know what? Let's make our other things cheaper. Let's reduce the cost of all those things by a lot, get a lot of big creatures out there, and those creatures can't be countered. Next up, Maelstrom Wanderer. This can help out in a lot of ways. 7/5 elemental for 8 mana in Temur. Creature control of haste, Cascade, Cascade. This is a commander that can definitely be big mana. It can be stomp. It can be a lot of things. And reducing the cost of this can be fantastic, especially because you're going to want to recast this again and again and again to keep cascading again and again and again. And of course, when you cascade, you might cascade into some big things that you can just get into play, and then all of a sudden, the more cost reduction. So yeah, a lot of fun with a Maelstrom Wanderer deck. Speaking of that, though, Riku of 2 Reflections, one that you might not have considered but should be for this card. A 2/2 human wizard for 5 mana in Temur. Cast against a source spell, you can copy it by paying Izzet colors, basically. Whenever another non-token creature enters battlefield control, you can copy that by paying Simic colors, essentially, making a token copy of it. I mean, even at the very least, just copying, essentially, the Temur Battlecrier and getting 2 copies of that, that doubles up its effectiveness. I mean, more than doubles up, really, because now you've got 2 4/3s in play that count themselves and each other, so reducing the cost of all your spells on your turn by 4. And that's, again, literally just by having those 2 in play. Just the regular and the copy. Oh my goodness. So yeah, making a clone version of Temur Battlecrier can be absolutely amazing. Clone decks with it can be huge. And of course, that doesn't even count when you start getting even more creatures in play that have power 4 or greater, which you can also copy with this too. Speaking of copies, though, you might even want to consider this. It might be heretical to say this, but you might want to consider some Miriam Sentinel Worm. Again, a dragon tribal deck. Yes, this is not a dragon. A 6/6 Dragon Spirit Flying Ward 2 for 6 mana in Temur. Whenever another non-token dragon enters battlefield you control, create token's copy of it, except the token isn't legendary if the dragon is legendary. This is the type of play that your opponents might scratch their heads at, but then are like, oh my gosh. Again, you're playing an Orc Ranger. It is not a dragon. There's only so many non-dragon slots you want to utilize in the deck. Yes. But essentially, again, this is a commander that goes wide quite quickly, and dragons, for the vast majority of them, are power 4 or greater. So you're going to have a ton of dragons in play that have power 4 or greater. You play down your Temur battlecrier, and all of a sudden, all your spells cost like 10 mana less to cast on your turn, which is quite absurd. So yeah, you're going to be saving a lot of mana with that. So again, a really cool include for a good amount of cards, a good amount of decks out there. Again, big stompy decks, token creating decks essentially, clone decks. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do with this one, and definitely a big upgrade for certain strategies out there. Next up, Ambling Stormshell. This is a very spicy card, a 5/9 turtle with ward 2 for 5 mana in blue. When it attacks, put 3 stun counters on it and draw 3 cards. Whenever you cast a turtle spell, untap this creature. This is a card that is, yes, slow in some ways, but also doesn't have to be, really. Again, 5/9 for 5 mana, ward 2, that's nice, protect itself. But yeah, drawing 3 on attack, that is huge. The downside, obviously, is once it gets stun counters on it, it's hard to untap. But how about we don't really care about untapping in the first place, because this is the type commander that, although it might not seem obvious, is huge in a deck like Inga and Essica. 4/4 human god for 4 mana in Simic. When creatures you control vigilance and tap at 1 mana of any color spell to cast creature spell. Whenever you cast a creature spell, 3 or more mana for creature spell to cast it, draw a card. Now, this turtle is absolutely fantastic, and you're probably not going to want to utilize this as a mana dork with this commander. You just care about it getting vigilance, because this is all of a sudden no longer a downside that's getting stun counters on it. You don't care, because it is no longer tapping anyways. You're just swinging, drawing 3 cards, swinging, drawing 3 cards, and being a 5/9 with ward 2 can be hard for your opponents to take out. Next up, Inquisitor Greyfax, very similar in that. A 3/3 human Inquisitor for 4 mana in Esper Vigilance. Other creature control get +1/0 and have Vigilance. You can also tap to our creature opponent controls to investigate. Again, a commander that grants vigilance to all of your creatures, and usually that's just a nice additional benefit where it's like, okay, I can stay back on defense as well. But with this, it says, okay, no more downside to my Stormshell. I literally just get to take advantage of all that card draw without having to worry about untapping it. And of course, one more. Here we go. Takasia Digsite Mentor, a 4/3 human artificer for 4 mana in Bant. Creature control vigilance and tap Surreal 1. You can also exile your graveyard to bring back artifact cards, basically. Essentially, again, literally just giving the creature vigilance is huge. This is a repeatable draw engine for you that is hard to deal with. And yeah, you just keep getting to swing with a 5/9. What's not to love about that, essentially? And just drawing 3 cards every single time. Or how about a commander like Sensational Spider-Man? 3/3 Spider Human Hero. Again, a commander that's going to be coming out in the future. For 3 mana in Azorius, when it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. Then you move up to 3 stun counters from among all permanents. Draw cards equal to number of stun counters, remove this way. This is huge because, again, your turtle, again, has the downside of getting stun counters, but now it becomes an upside. You're swinging with each of these, and all of a sudden, oh, okay, let's remove those 3 stun counters from my own turtle and draw 3 more cards. You literally are drawing 6 cards on attack with this combination. Definitely a good include for this one. Or how about Arkalos Lagoon Mystic? Again, if you are going for that turtle tribal, it's not, the most popular thing out there, but sure, if you are, here you go. 2/4 Turtle Shaman for 4 mana in Sultai. If it's tapped, other permanents end of the battlefield tapped. If it's untapped, other permanents end of the battlefield untapped. A very good controlling commander. That being said, again, you're going to have other turtles in the deck. When you're casting them, you can untap the Ambling Stormshell. So again, a great card to add to certain strategies out there. Ones that actually care about stun counters. Ones that care about, well, just granting vigilance to everything. And of course, turtles. There you go. Next up, though, we've got Mardu Siegebreaker, a 4/4 human warrior for 4 mana in Mardu Death Touch Haste. When it enters, exiles up to 1 other target creature control until this creature leaves the battlefield. When it attacks, for each opponent, create a tap token that's a copy of the exile card attacking that opponent. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice those tokens. So a great ETB, kind of like a Fiend Hunter type effect that stores something out there for you, but also it kind of myriads that as well, giving you token copies of each of those, tapped and attacking. You can do a lot of exciting things with this one, and yeah, this might come up, in this kind of a strategy, of course. Ishin to Heavens as one. Whenever you have kind of like a, oh hey, attack trigger, yeah, let's double that up. 3/4 Human Samurai for 3 mana in Mardu. If a creature attacking causes a trigger ability permanent you control to trigger, triggers this whole time. Basically, doubling up on your attack triggers. So now, instead of just getting, again, with 3 opponents, 3 creatures, 3 creature tokens, you are getting 6. You are getting 2 per each opponent, and that can just be devastating. Can be game ending. Just think about that with Gary. That is literally just game ending if you have Gary in that deck and you're doing that. Gross. Next up, Kali the Vast, yet another commander that cares about an attack trigger, a 2/2 human cleric with flying for 4 mana in Mardu. Attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, dragon creature card from your hand on the battlefield tapped, attacking that opponent. Now, of course, you only want to include so many non-angels, demons, dragons with a commander like this for the most part. That being said, you might make the exception because you're cheating into play some massive things. And now all of a sudden, this little human warrior can take advantage of those massive things by giving you even more massive things. And of course, with this kind of a commander, you probably take advantage of extra combats as well, and this creature can too. Next up, one that you might not expect, Niv Mizzet Reborn, a 6/6 dragon avatar for 5 mana. That's Wooburg, flying, enters the battlefield. Reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each color pair, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards in your hand, the rest of them your library in random order. Again, this is one where depends on the build of your deck. Some people like to include literally just all 2-color combinations and won't go to a 3rd color. That being said, if you're willing to, this can be a great one to consider because it does, again, give you that Fiend Hunter type storage, right? Okay, all right, I get this in play. I actually exile Niv Mizzet. I store it up there. That being said now, when I attack, I get 3 copies of this. Yeah, legend rule applies. I only get to keep 1 basically. Or I mean, not even keep. They're all going to go away anyways. It doesn't really matter. But what matters is I use and abuse that ETB. I literally get that ETB 3 times. I'm looking at the top 30 cards. And again, for every single color pair, I'm getting cards. So you can get an absurd amount of card advantage just by repeating this again and again and again. Even if you're just getting 1 swing with it, that is so worth it. Next up though, Teriel, Reckoner of Souls. Again, yet another commander that loves to get big creatures. A 4/7 Angel Flying Vigilance for 7 mana in Mardu. Tap, choose a creature card at random from target opponent's graveyard. Put that card on the battlefield under control. This is one that likes to use and abuse untap effects, likes to use ways to actually curate opponents' graveyards, and maybe even tutor things in opponents' graveyards. But yeah, being able to essentially get something massive out and then say, you know what, that's not good enough for me. I would like to actually get 3 copies of that essentially with my brand new card. Or how about Exis Arik Overlord? A different way to go about this. A 2/4 human warlock with double strike for 4 mana. This one's actually going to be in Mardu though, because the backside, whenever you cast or copy it in source spell, return target knowledge or creature card from your grave to your hand. That side can work with it obviously, but the backside is what you really care about for the most part. Awaken the Blood Avatar, 8 mana in total. As an initial cost cast a spell, you may sacrifice any number of creatures cost 2 less to cast for each creature sacrificed this way. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, creating 3/6 black and red avatar creature token with haste, and when this creature attacks, 3 damage to each opponent. This is a deck that loves proliferate effects, and this brand new card also loves proliferating too. Oh, sorry, when I say proliferate, I mean populate. Populate is what you want to be doing with this one, being able to essentially say, you know what? I'm actually going to make extra avatars. I'm actually going to make extra copies of those Mardu Siegebreaker creatures. I'm going to utilize a card like Song of the World Soul to just populate to my heart's content and make an absurd amount of amazing creatures. So yeah, with the right strategy and a populate strategy, you can really do a lot of great things with Mardu Siegebreaker. Finally, one that might not be obvious either, Reaper King actually might want to consider this too. A 6/6 Scarecrow for a weird combination of colors, but basically Wooburg or 10 mana or somewhere in between. Pumps your Scarecrows +1/+1. Whenever another Scarecrow comes into play, though, you destroy target permanent. Scarecrow isn't that supported of a tribe, but yeah, now we can really take advantage of just a single Scarecrow with Mardu Siegebreaker. Having it come into play and swing and make 3 copies of a Scarecrow, all of a sudden, guess what? That is 3 massive ETBs, destroying permanents, and if we can keep repeating that, our opponents are going to be in big trouble. So yeah, overall, a really cool card, one that can really help out with like extra combats. It can really help out with populate strategies. It can really help out with a lot of different types of strategies out there, and just a very solid card that is a huge upgrade for the right deck. Finally, let's talk about Death Begets Life, a really spicy, massive card. Sorcery for 8 mana in total and Sultai. Destroy all creatures and enchantments. Draw a card for each permanent destroyed this way. This is a brand new kind of Decree of Pain style card, and like that, it has a lot of potential and can draw you potentially even more cards. Again, creatures and enchantments that can just draw you a ton. A massive board wipe that might take out your own things, but yeah, you're going to be okay with that when you just say, oh yeah, I've got this full grip of cards and then some. So of course, big mana commander like Joda, Archmage Eternal, 4/3 human wizard, flying for 4 mana. But this is a Wooburg commander because you can pay Wooburg rather than pay the mana cost of spells you cast. Be able to pay 5 mana for this 8 mana spell. That can be absolutely huge. Wipe out the board. Yeah, you wipe out your own things, but of course you've been ramping the whole time. You got a lot of mana, you're fine, and you get to draw an absurd amount of cards. Tasker the Golden Fang, one that also can go big mana in certain ways. A 4/5 human shaman for 6 mana in, well, I was going to say actually mono black, but it is a Sultai commander by paying, well, 4 mana in total. Put the top 2 cards of your library in your graveyard. They return a non-land card, opponent's choice, your graveyard, your hand. This also has Delve too, so you care about your graveyard. Getting things in your graveyard can actually reduce the cost of this. That being said, you can also just keep recurring certain things. Kind of graveyard, again, curating can ensure that you are getting what you want. And again, if you need that board wipe again, you've got ways to essentially curate it to get that back and again have another massive board wipe. That is another massive play to set yourself up. Next up, though, how about Ryami First the Fallen? We've got a 5/4 vampire for 4 mana in Sultai. If a non-token creature would die, exile that card with a blood counter on it instead. As long as an exiled creature card with blood counter has flying, it's got flying. The same is true for First Strike, Death Touch, Double Strike, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Protection, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. Basically, keyword soup. So you actually want creatures to die, which is great, including potentially your own. On top of that, yes, this can get indestructible. And by having indestructible, this turns this basically into a one-sided board wipe that draws you an absurd amount of cards. It also makes this even harder to deal with. Speaking of which, though, Sliver Hivelord. Yeah, this can be a great include in this kind of a deck. A 5/5 Sliver for 5 mana Wooburg. Slivers you control of indestructible. Again, this is a one-sided board wipe now for this type of a strategy where you say, okay, let's wipe the board of all creatures, all enchantments. Okay, I might lose my enchantments if I have any, but if not, my slivers are fine. That's great. And all of a sudden, I'm wiping out your creatures, and I draw an absurd amount of cards as well. So yeah, Death Begets Life, an amazing card, one that is absolutely massive for the right strategy out there. Again, might not even be one-sided, but it might not even matter because it's going to give you so much advantage. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. Comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.